Hello and welcome to Repeat the Question, Schmoedown Analysis. As always, I'm your host, as always, John Pendlebury, and we have quite a bit to talk to about today with some major events in Schmoedown history going since our last episode. But first, let's take a break just for a moment, just quickly go through a couple other matches. We had an Intergeekdom of Mark Donica versus Jared Habon, who was the champion of a five-way. Mark Donica won pretty easily, easily enough against Jared Habon. Jared Habon proved to be an admirable enough competitor in that league, but nothing excessively notable about that match, but both performed well and nothing too incredible. There's also Ben Bateman versus Dale the Dude. Now I wonder if maybe there was some John Pendlebury about someone who watches the show could be in such a match, but I digress. Anyways, Bateman pretty easily defeated Dale the Dude, and once again, nothing too notable about that match. We also had possibly a more notable one in Ethan Irwin versus Yolanda Machado. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. Either way, Ethan Irwin proved himself to be a considerable competitor in this match, and he's certainly one to look out for, as we will get to in a moment. More than that, though, there was, of course, the live Schmoedown, which I have to say was a smashing success, clearly just from the crowd, obviously, but also just clearly in how we saw it presented on the YouTube version as well. The use of the crowd was brilliantly used, quite frankly, and the way they had each competitor do their speak before the match and come through the crowd during the match, and everything in terms of utilizing the crowd was brilliantly used, and used kind of the live stage format in an exceptional way, and really proved that such a format, I think, could work in more of a long-term way. However, obviously there's lots of complications involved in it, but I will say it was certainly a success without question, and utilizing in this way is particularly great for the exceptionally charismatic group. And it shows you that teams like the Wildberries and Real Rejects, who clearly aren't going to be winning any championships as much as the Wildberries would like to, have their place in the league if they have that charisma or pseudo anti-charisma. I mean, the Real Rejects are essentially the Glass Joes of the league, but I think they have a place as the Glass Joes of the league nonetheless. Wildberries, though, are slightly more than Glass Joes because they're a little more of the Von Kaiser who you fight after Glass Joe and Punch Out, in that they're a bit more charismatic in their lack of skill, we'll say, but they have so much charisma it does make up for it. Obviously, the Wildberries won, although it was a tighter match than usual, but it shows you that such a match can have tension if the right teams are put up against each other. If it was, say, the Wildberries or the Real Rejects versus, say, MODOK or any of the other top-tier teams, it probably would have been far more one-sided. But matching the teams of, we'll say, not the highest skill can make an entertaining match if they have the personality and there's tension within their certain skill set. Afterwards, we had the more entertaining match for me in terms of the investment, in terms of the skill of the players, although both matches were very entertaining, don't get me wrong, of JT versus John Roca. Very much a grudge match after the Jane Fonda debacle that we faced before last time, so it was interesting to finally see these two go mano-a-mano rather than JT's consistent claims he's always beaten Roca without ever having faced him one-on-one. John Roca quite easily defeated JT here, excelling in his Westerns categories as well, while JT, despite his complaints in the post-game match, proved his lack of skill, and even though he got his favorite category in round 2 and completely failed as a competitor here, and finally got his mispronunciations caught up with him when answering the True Lies question of how he said Alicia Dooku. It was quite incorrect. So he finally got a bit of kind of the medicine he's been created for everybody else to have to eat due to his own screw-ups, and finally the screw-ups came and was problematic for him for once, which was satisfying to see, I will say. And Roca won quite easily and proved his skill, and this was prime Roca, tense, direct, and in the zone. But Roca, as always, is one of the most frustrating players to watch, and even if you get invested in him playing, when he screws up, he's either on point or, man, I don't know where he is. And here was a day where he was clearly on point, right directly in there, and excelled doing so. And as a player, you couldn't have asked a better guy for the live Schmoedown. Every aspect of what what he did in the live match was pretty notable and quite showing just what can be done in the Schmoedown in terms of playing with the wrestling angle in the right way, which is exactly what Roka did. So I'm most definitely looking forward to any more use of the live Schmoedown format, as I think it's killer. I would say what they should make sure, though, do not premiere teams ever in this. Is what I would say. Do never premiere a team, never premiere a player. It should always be vets of at least some level, and certainly people with very distinct personalities or created personalities in the league, rather than just anybody. It should be very specific choices, because I think if you do everyone with that in mind, you could create great live shows every time, as they certainly had in this one. Following that, we had a pivotal, I love saying pivotal wrong, about Above the Line versus Team MODOK, both former champion contenders, but just missing each of them. MODOK in sudden death against the Patriots, Above the Line with a single point on the 5-point question against the Patriots, both in pole position to win. Unfortunately, neither could quite come to that match. Here, Above the Line, I will say, was slightly rusty at times. However, it didn't matter. They still pretty soundly defeated Team MODOK, who is no team to sniff at all. They are definitely top tier, even if they aren't champs currently. They very well could have been. They're certainly a top tier team, but Above the Line smoked them, and Above the Line is once again going against the Patriot. This is a rematch I am looking forward to, because it'll see if Patriots' luck once again comes in through them, because Above the Line really probably is the more skilled team in terms of their point averages or any other barrier you want to base it on. They lost by the 5-pointer, and not by 5 points. They lost by 1 stinking point. If McWeeny or Levine in that match had just answered one other question right, it would have been a tie, or it would have been different and would have led to sudden death. But anyways, the Patriots need luck, I would say, to win against Above the Line. They, of course, can do it, and in terms of predictions, I would have to predict the Patriots, just because how can you not? But Above the Line definitely is close to dominating the match, especially if you saw Levine's championship speed round skills, which I think he's just blown everyone away in terms of those skills. So there'll be that. I am very much looking forward to that match, and hopefully it will not disappoint and we won't have any strange Jane Fonda choices. Following that, we had a team match of Team Trek versus World's Finest. This was it was an enjoyable match to watch. That's without question. No problems in terms of the entertainment value of the match. What was frustrating, though, was it was clear Team Trek actually should be a top tier team. Inman certainly knows his one half of kind of the movie trivia game, and Mance knows the other half quite well. The problem is Mance is one of the most unwieldy, skilled players around. He definitely has most of the information, and it's not even, it seems to be recall, it seems to be focus for him, that he needs to focus, and this was a match where he was not focusing throughout the match. You just saw him going off in that Mance way, where he just gets into that energy, and he starts spouting off incorrect answers quickly, and with no mind for just getting the right answer in, and sadly, Team Trek completely lost to the World's Finest, who did fine. I will say they don't really have like a team cohesion in terms of personality. They're just kind of there. I mean, they're fine. Both guys seem fine. I have nothing against them. That is what I'm saying. They just there is anything notable in terms of the team's overall personality at the moment. Maybe they'll find it, maybe they won't. I'm just saying, whereas Team Trek is much more notable, where you have such a great dynamic between Inman's very calm, very controlled manner against Mance, he might as well be Captain Kirk with how insane he gets at every point. That's what he was here. He was Captain Kirk, where the evil captain came in and he was fighting himself the whole time. And that's why they lost. Team Trek clearly was the more skilled team, and it always is frustrating when you see the more skilled team lose. Not because they didn't know answers, but because they didn't focus in the right way, which was the case here. And it's even more frustrating because you see Inman, who's trying to get Mance into place, and he just wasn't able to do it this time. When Inman can get Mance working in the same frame of mind, the Team Trek beat the Patriots. I will always contend that they beat the Patriots. Eva, and the speed round questions both belong to Team Trek, yet they were screwed over twice and they lost to the Patriots. But technically they should be Team Champ holders, and it's a shame to see Team Trek lose once again and have a 4-4 record. World's Finest now is 2-0, but I'm not making a comment on player Eric Zipper there. But they're 2-0, and I don't see that lasting that long. Not that they're terrible players. They're a fine mid-range team, it seems like, unless they have some major improvement next time. But there was nothing too notable notable about their way of playing. They're okay, but I'm going to say they're probably going to lose first time they go up against anybody too strong, say to go against top 10 or even Modoc. And finally that we had the free-for-all, which is just an extremely entertaining Schmoedown event. Once again, and I will say it was a whole lot of fun once more, and just having so many personalities, so many characters all in one room at the same time in the 5-man elimination rounds. The only thing I will say, as much as I enjoyed it, there were a few things one can pinprick here. One here is not something that's a complaint, because it's just gonna either happen or not. There was no major moment in this one. No truly natural, created just through the game moment like we had last year when Andreyko knocked out the murderer's rows of players all in a single feat. We didn't have anything even near that, unfortunately, which is, just in terms of the entertainment value of the match, it's a shame we couldn't get something like that. There also wasn't any surprising performances. A couple of people kind of underperformed, but not really in a way that was truly surprising. Like Roka was kind of off Roka, so he lost. Rachel Cushing lost, but again, it wasn't like somebody completely went the wrong direction. We had a few notable things. Mark Riley came out of retirement for a few seconds just to lose instantly, which, whatever, that's just what happened. We had Finstock return, even though old Bobby Gucci was already in the league, and it's interesting he's trying to kind of form his own Mankind, Nick Foley sort of thing, or Mick Foley, I don't remember his name, but you know what I'm talking about if you know wrestling slightly, and I know wrestling slightly. Anyways, no major truly sweep the rug out of the appearances, except for their brief appearance of what seemed like Dan Murrell was going to return, and that was probably one of the most epic moments. And you got to give it to Murrell, just the power of his place in the league is undisputed. He's the number one player, period, and everybody knows it, to the point that Jaws theme kind of inspires fears in the players. That was a fun moment. Unfortunately, taken down by it being just a subversion where Andrew Guy returned after physically assaulting Roka. I say that while quoting my hands. And now he's back, and he lost quickly in the free-for-all. There was nothing notable. What we did see, at least, was a strong performance by a few people. Again, I didn't think it was in a new way. Ethan Irwin proved that his singles match was just, he showed that, yep, he's definitely a strong player, and he's here to continue, as he played very well throughout the free-for-all, and William Bibbiani came to play, which shouldn't be surprising as it's round one format, and Bibbiani does great in round ones, and he did great again. Drew McWeeny did pretty well. Nobody did all that poorly here at all, but nobody did in an extremely surprising way. Bibbiani has always been a great player if he gets in the zone, and he was in the zone, and so that was notable, and I'm glad he'll have his number one contender shot. Maybe it'll get him finally on some sort of championship track, which he probably deserves to be on, at least in some way, even though he has so many losses under his belt at this point. The ultimate champion, though, was Breanne Chandler. She had a high number, so she had that advantage, but when she came out, she really did deliver with her playing. That is without a doubt, and she performed well, and she earned that win. However, and this is nothing against her in the slightest, this game, unfortunately, as fun as it was up until the final round, had a severe anticlimax, and again, nothing to do with Breanne Chandler. It was that instead of doing a true elimination game, they just made it point-based suddenly for the final round, which is kind of a lame choice, because eliminating would have really built tension for just a couple more rounds, and then we could have really had an extremely tense moment between maybe just two players at the end, and if we just saw that table going down to each person, I think that would have been more engaging, more interesting, more fun, frankly, than we just, all of a sudden, Breanne Chandler won. She even said as much in her outgoing interview where she's like, I guess I won from that, which is a shame. I would have been just a lot more entertaining for the show in entire. It would have created a proper climax for the show rather than suddenly it's a point. I'm not sure everyone at the table understood, as I think probably Bibbiani, for example, would have tried hard to get that Hobbit title if that was the case. So they should have probably either stopped, explained the round more, or we should have had the elimination, which I think would have been a far more entertaining way. Either way, we have Breanne Chandler as the winner, which is enjoyable. It'll be interesting to see what she does with her championship shot. I assume she'll probably do singles. That's probably the easier take than going teams against the Patriots or whoever else. Teams is a tough nut to crack. Singles, nothing against Levine at all. I think Levine would probably win, by the way, but singles is at least easier than the Patriots in terms of overall skills. Patriots defeated and Sam has been defeated. So it's nothing against Sam, just Patriots are a step above in terms of championship skill. Bibiani obviously was MVP without question, and it's a shame we couldn't have kind of played with that MVP idea more by having that proper final round. So that's my thoughts on the free-for-all. It was still a very entertaining show. I wish it had a great ending to go along with everything else that was so much fun within it. Nothing surprising, but you know what? As a free-for-all, the concept alone is so much fun that it doesn't really matter. So, but hopefully next time they will change it to a pure elimination, because I think that would be a lot more entertaining for the final round than just like, oh, 48, okay, now we're done. That just was just suddenly threw the pacing off, which is unfortunate, but again, future, let's see it better. And that is all for Repeat the Question today. Thank you for listening.